Most people go through life never realizing how much power they actually hold. Day in and day out, they follow routines, go through motions, and convince themselves they've done everything they can. But the truth is, they've barely scratched the surface. Deep down, they know there's more. There's a voice inside whispering that they were made for something greater, that they're capable of more, but that voice gets drowned out by noise, distractions, doubts, fear, and excuses. So instead of turning up the volume on their potential, they turn it down. They silence it with comfort, with routine, with the lie that says, this is just the way life is. What if it's not? What if the ceiling you're living under is one you built with your own thoughts, your own limiting beliefs, your own stories about who you are and what you're worth? Imagine a version of yourself that's 5 times more focused, 10 times more driven, 100 times more committed. That version of you already exists. It's not a fantasy. It's just waiting for you to stop settling, waiting for you to stop running on autopilot, waiting for you to stop choosing what's easy over what's extraordinary. You have to understand that potential doesn't live in comfort. Potential lives in discomfort. It lives in challenge. It lives in pushing past everything that says, you can't, and proving it wrong. You see, the real problem isn't lack of time, lack of resources, or lack of talent. The real problem is that you've been conditioned to play small. You've been taught to lower your expectations so you won't get hurt. You've been trained to avoid risk, to stay in line, to do what's safe. But power doesn't grow in safety. It grows in the unknown. It grows when you put yourself on the line, when you chase something so big it scares you. You've got layers of strength, drive, and brilliance buried underneath years of hesitation and fear. And the only way to break through is to stop accepting your current level as your final level. Everything extraordinary in life begins with a moment of defiance, a moment where you say, this isn't enough, I'm done playing small. That's when the fire starts to ignite. That's when the real you begins to show up. Not the version shaped by doubt, but the version fueled by hunger, hunger to grow, hunger to lead, hunger to make an impact. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about waking up the part of you that's been asleep for too long, the part that knows you were meant to rise, meant to fight, meant to conquer, and the truth is you don't need permission, you don't need approval. You just need to decide that you're done living below your potential. That decision alone starts to stir the power that's been waiting inside of you. The moment you realize you're only using a fraction of what you've been given is the moment everything starts to change. You were not born to blend in. You were not created to merely survive, to live a life of repetition, mediocrity, and quiet desperation. Somewhere along the way, the world convinced you to shrink. It told you to tone it down, to be realistic, to follow the crowd. And maybe you listened. Maybe you started believing that average was good enough, that playing it safe was smart, that your dreams were too big, too crazy, too far away. But deep within you, there's a whisper that won't die. It shows up in the silence, in the late nights, in the restless moments when you know, this can't be it. That whisper is your truth. It's the fire calling you to remember who you really are. There's a force inside of you that's powerful beyond measure. It doesn't care about your past, your failures, or your doubts. It's not limited by your education, your income, or your current circumstances. It was there before the world told you to settle, and it will be there when you finally choose to rise. This force is your potential, and it was never meant to be caged. You weren't meant to wake up dreading the day ahead. You weren't meant to numb yourself with distractions, living weekend to weekend, hoping for a breakthrough that never comes. You were meant to lead. You were meant to impact. You were meant to live with fire in your soul and vision in your eyes. Look around. Everything great you see in the world, everything that inspires you, was built by people who refused to live small. People who were told they couldn't, but did. People who risked everything for a dream they couldn't let go of. They weren't special. They were willing to be misunderstood, willing to fall, willing to do whatever it took to become who they knew they could be. And so are you, but that greatness doesn't awaken with comfort. It awakens with challenge, with hunger, with a decision to no longer live a life of quiet compromise. There's a reason why the same thoughts keep showing up in your mind. A reason why you feel frustrated, why you crave more. It's not that you're broken. It's that your soul is trying to remind you you were made for more, not just to exist, but to live, to experience the fullness of what you're capable of. But here's the truth. No one's going to hand it to you. No one's going to unlock your power for you. You have to do it. You have to stop waiting for the perfect moment and realize that moment is now. The moment you stop ignoring that voice, the moment you stop betraying yourself by settling for less, that inner power, that calling, that potential, it's been there all along, hidden beneath layers of fear, doubt, and distraction. And the moment you decide to rise, to answer that call, everything begins to shift. Power doesn't come from waiting. It doesn't arrive at your doorstep with a knock. It doesn't fall into your lap because you wished for it, prayed for it, or hoped that someday things would change. Power is not given, it's taken, it's forged, it's claimed in the moments when you stand up and say, I will not be a victim of my circumstances. I will not let life dictate who I am. The truth is, too many people spend their entire lives waiting for permission to dream, to speak up, to go after what they want. They wait for someone to tell them they're good enough, ready enough, strong enough. And while they wait, life moves on without them. But the ones who rise, the ones who break through, they don't wait. They decide, they make power a choice, not a gift. Every single person walking this earth has power inside them. But for most, it stays locked away. Why? Because accessing that power requires discomfort. It demands discipline, responsibility, courage. It asks you to step into the unknown, to face fear head on, and to do things before you feel ready. Power is unleashed the moment you choose action over excuses, growth over comfort, purpose over pleasure. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to move forward without them. That's where real strength comes from, not from certainty, but from the courage to act in spite of uncertainty. Look at anyone who has ever created something meaningful, whether it's a business, a body of work, a movement, or a new version of themselves. They didn't sit around waiting to feel powerful. They showed up when it was hard. They pushed through when it felt like nothing was working. They didn't wait for motivation. They created it. They built momentum through action, and with each step forward, their power grew. That's how it works. You don't tap into your power by thinking about it. You tap into it by doing. Your life begins to shift the moment you stop looking outside yourself for the answers. The moment you stop thinking someone else has the key. No mentor, no book, no guru can unlock the fire inside you. They can point you toward it, but only you can strike the match. That's your responsibility. That's your power. The most liberating truth you'll ever realize is that you already have everything you need. The strength, the vision, the energy, it's all there, waiting to be activated. But it doesn't show up in comfort zones. It shows up in the trenches, in the late nights, in the sacrifices. In the moments when you refuse to quit, when you refuse to lower your standards, when you choose to show up as the strongest version of yourself, especially when no one is watching, that is where power lies. Not in the outcome, but in the process. Not in the reward, but in the decision to keep going when it would be easier to stop. That's when the real you is born. That's when power is unleashed. Excuses are seductive. They sound reasonable, they feel safe, they give you something to fall back on when things get uncomfortable, when fear starts whispering in your ear, when results don't come as fast as you hoped, but excuses are also the chains that keep you stuck. They disguise themselves as protection, but what they really do is rob you of growth, of progress, of your future. Every time you say, I don't have time, I'm not ready, it's not the right moment, what you're really doing is handing over your power. You're giving up control and blaming the world for your stagnation. And as long as you keep doing that, nothing will change. It's easy to point the finger outward. The economy, your childhood, your boss, your relationship, your lack of support. Yes, those things may be real challenges. But they're not your cage. What keeps you trapped is the story you tell yourself about those challenges. The moment you say, I can't because you've already surrendered. You've already chosen to believe that your circumstances define you. But they don't. You do. Your decisions, your habits, your standards, that's what shapes your life. Not what happens to you, but how you respond to it. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not the ones who had perfect situations. They're the ones who refuse to use their situations as a reason to stop. They were tired, they were afraid, they were broke, they were alone, but they kept moving. They chose to take ownership of their lives instead of outsourcing responsibility. And that's the difference, that's the edge. When you stop waiting for things to get easier and start getting stronger instead, you shift from being a victim to being a force. You stop living in reaction and start living in intention. Every excuse you make is a brick in the wall between you and your potential. And that wall gets higher every day you choose to stay comfortable instead of committed. You don't need to tear it all down at once. You just need to stop adding to it. Start showing up differently. Start taking back control of your choices. The moment you catch yourself making an excuse, you have an opportunity, a chance to pivot, to challenge that thought, to act instead of retreat. That's how transformation begins, not with a lightning bolt of motivation, but with small decisions to stop feeding the lie that says you're stuck. The truth is, most of what's holding you back isn't external, it's internal. It's the invisible script you keep running in your mind, the one that tells you it's okay to settle, that someone like you doesn't go further, that maybe greatness is for someone else. But that script can be rewritten. And it starts with telling the truth. You've made excuses. You've avoided the hard conversations, the hard work, the hard changes, and now it's time to stop. Time to stand up and take full responsibility for everything you want. Because the moment you do that, the excuses lose their power and you get yours back. Everything in your life begins and ends with a decision, not a half-hearted wish, not a temporary spark of motivation. A real decision, one that cuts off all other possibilities, one that declares with absolute certainty, this is who I am now. The power of decision is the most underestimated force available to you. People spend years waiting for clarity, for signs, for the right timing, hoping that somehow their circumstances will push them into action. But clarity doesn't come from waiting. It comes from deciding. Deciding to move, deciding to grow, deciding that enough is enough. There's something that happens when you make a true decision. Your energy shifts, your mindset sharpens, your focus locks in. You stop entertaining doubts because the decision is already made. You don't wonder if you're capable, you act like you are. That moment of choice has the power to override years of hesitation, fear, and self-doubt. It breaks the cycle. Because when you decide who you're going to be, how you're going to show up, and what you're going to tolerate from yourself and others, you're no longer reacting to life. You're creating it. Most people never make that kind of decision. They say they want to change, but they leave the back door open. They keep the old habits close. They tell themselves, I'll try, instead of I must. That's the difference between wanting and deciding. When you want something, you're hoping it shows up. When you decide, you're committed to doing whatever it takes. One is wishful thinking. The other is a line in the sand. The truth is, your future hinges on your ability to decide with conviction. Every great transformation begins with a moment where a person says, I'm not living like this anymore. It could be the decision to start showing up differently, to take care of your body, to build something of your own, to stop tolerating toxic patterns. Whatever it is, it doesn't need to be loud, but it does need to be absolute. A decision made with full commitment rewrites your standards. It demands that your actions rise to meet your new identity. That's the moment the shift begins, not when the results show up, but when the decision is made. People look at others who are successful, confident, or fulfilled and think they're lucky, or that they were born with something special. But what they were born with is no different from what you were born with. The difference is they decided. They decided to become the kind of person who follows through, the kind of person who leads, the kind of person who doesn't flinch in the face of resistance. You don't need more time. You don't need more information. You don't need more approval. You just need to decide. Decide that you're done tolerating mediocrity. Decide that you're going to chase what sets your soul on fire. Decide that you're capable, that you're ready, that the old version of you doesn't get to run the show anymore. That one powerful decision can become the foundation of an entirely new life. The fire you're looking for isn't out there. It's not waiting for the right podcast, the right coach, the right opportunity, or the right time. It's already inside you, that spark, that drive, that energy. It's buried beneath the noise, but it's still burning. And when you stop looking outside yourself for permission to light it, you'll realize you've had the match in your hand the whole time. The people who look unstoppable aren't fueled by constant motivation. They're fueled by decisions. They've trained themselves to act whether they feel like it or not. They don't wait for the perfect emotional state to take action. They know that fire is not a gift. It's something you build, ignite, and protect every single day. The problem is, we've been conditioned to believe that we have to wait until we feel ready. That someday we'll wake up and suddenly be inspired enough to make all the changes we've been avoiding. But it doesn't work like that. You don't wait for fire, you create it, and that means getting uncomfortable. It means doing the things you don't feel like doing because your vision demands it. It means showing up with intensity and purpose even when no one's watching, even when you're tired, even when you doubt yourself. That's where the internal fire gets built, in those moments where the average person would back down and you decide to step up. The truth is, your energy is a choice. You can wake up and drag yourself through the day, or you can wake up and generate the energy you need to dominate it. You can either react to the world or bring power to it. Fire isn't something you wait to feel, it's something you choose to live with. That fire comes from movement, momentum, and mission. It comes from reminding yourself what's at stake. It comes from connecting with a purpose that's bigger than comfort or convenience. There's a version of you that operates with relentless energy, a version that doesn't make excuses, a version that doesn't flinch in the face of resistance. That version already exists. You just have to feed it. You feed it by honoring your commitments, by pushing when it's hard, by choosing discipline over distraction. And every time you make that choice, you add fuel to your inner fire. It grows with every win, every rep, every hour you invest in becoming who you were meant to be. You don't need to wait for the stars to align. You don't need someone to come push you. The fire is already there. It just needs your permission to burn brighter. When you train your mind and body to move with intensity, even when the emotions aren't there, something shifts. You become a force. You stop looking for external sparks and start carrying the flame inside you. That's what separates the people who talk about change from the people who make it happen. It's not about waiting for inspiration to strike. It's about becoming the kind of person who brings fire to everything they touch. Progress is not a straight line. It's messy. It's filled with setbacks, doubts, failures, and moments where you question everything. But if you're truly committed to growth, you understand that these moments aren't obstacles. They're part of the process. Every setback is a setup, every failure is feedback, every struggle is shaping you into something stronger, yet most people never get there because they quit when things get hard. They interpret resistance as a reason to stop rather than a signal to rise. But the truth is, growth isn't supposed to feel easy. It's supposed to challenge every part of you that's been holding you back. You don't grow by staying in your comfort zone. You grow by pushing through it. You grow by taking the risk, showing up on the hard days, and doing the work even when no one's clapping for you. That's where real transformation happens, not in the highlight reel, but in the quiet grind. In the mornings when you want to sleep in, but choose to get up. In the evenings when you want to quit, but decide to go one more round. These are the unseen victories that build your future. Consistency is the secret weapon that most people overlook. Everyone wants the big breakthrough, the moment when everything changes, but breakthroughs are the result of showing up again and again when it feels like nothing is working. It's about having the discipline to stay the course, to stay focused when distractions are everywhere, to stay true to your vision when the results are delayed. That's how momentum is built, not with intensity alone, but with relentless commitment. And every time you show up, you're reinforcing the belief that you're the kind of person who follows through. That belief becomes your identity, and your identity drives your destiny. Growth requires patience, but it also requires urgency. You have to move with intensity, but you also have to play the long game. You can't plant a seed and expect fruit the next day. You have to water it, you have to protect it, you have to believe in it long before you see results. Most people give up because they're obsessed with outcomes. They want proof before they commit, but growth demands the opposite. It asks for your full commitment first, and then over time it reveals the results. You have to be willing to go all in even when the payoff isn't immediate. And the truth is, every day you delay, you're not just postponing results. You're postponing who you could become. Every rep, every step, every decision to keep going is sculpting your future self. You're not just working towards something. You're becoming something, someone with resilience, with focus, with fire, and the best part, the more you grow, the more capable you become. What once felt impossible becomes your new normal. What used to scare you becomes your strength, and you start to realize that growth isn't a destination. It's a way of life, a mindset, a relentless decision to become more, give more, live more, no matter what life throws your way. You are not here to play small. You are not here to fit into someone else's mold, follow someone else's path, or dim your light so others feel comfortable. You are here to lead, to rise, to set a standard so high that it forces others to level up just by being around you. Leadership is not about titles or positions. It's about presence. It's about impact. It's about who you are when no one is watching, and what you're willing to demand of yourself when it would be easier to settle. Being a leader starts with leading your own life. Not someday, not when everything is perfect, but right now, exactly where you are. The greatest form of leadership is self-mastery, because you cannot lead others until you can lead yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your standards. That's the battlefield most people ignore. They want influence without integrity. They want results without discipline. But you don't build a legacy by chasing quick wins. You build it by showing up as someone others can count on, especially when things get hard. When you raise your standard, when you decide that good enough is no longer acceptable, you don't just change your life. You give others permission to do the same. People don't follow perfection. They follow authenticity. They follow consistency. They follow someone who walks their talk. And that's what leadership demands, congruence. Are you living in alignment with the values you talk about? Are you embodying the message you preach? Because true leadership begins with radical ownership, owning your decisions, owning your results, owning the energy you bring into every room. You are either raising the vibration of the people around you, or you're draining it. There is no neutral. Leadership is influence, and influence starts with example. The world doesn't need more followers. It needs more people willing to rise, to think independently, to stand for something. To live with such clarity and conviction that others are inspired to do the same. Your story, your journey, your scars, they all have purpose, not just to elevate you, but to elevate others. Every break, through you fight for give someone else hope. Every time you choose to show up with strength instead of excuses, you model what's possible. And whether you realize it or not, someone is watching you. Someone is looking to you for permission, for inspiration, for belief. You don't need to have all the answers to lead. You just need to be willing to go first, to be the one who speaks truth, who sets the pace, who makes the tough decisions even when no one claps for it. That's leadership, and it starts with a decision. Not to be liked, not to fit in, but to be real, to be powerful, to be a force for growth, strength, and transformation in a world that desperately needs it. When you choose to lead, everything changes, not just for you, but for everyone who crosses your path. You become a light, you become an example, you become the spark that helps others ignite their own fire. Gratitude is not weakness, it's not passive. It's not something you practice only when life is easy and things are going your way. Gratitude is power. It's one of the most potent tools you have to shift your state, raise your energy, and reconnect with what matters. Because no matter how tough life gets, there is always something to be grateful for. Your breath, your strength, your resilience, the chance to rise one more time. Gratitude doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means recognizing the gifts even in the struggle, the lessons inside the pain, the strength that's being forged through the challenge. Gratitude flips the switch from why me to try me. It changes your focus, and your focus shapes your reality. Most people are so busy chasing what's next that they forget to appreciate what's now. They're always reaching, always striving, but never arriving. They've tied their sense of worth to future accomplishments, so they miss the value of the present moment. But what you appreciate appreciates, what you give attention to expands, and when you live in a state of gratitude, you're not just happier. You're more powerful, you're grounded, you're focused, you're aligned. You see opportunities others miss. You build deeper relationships. You operate with a level of emotional intelligence and inner peace that can't be faked. Gratitude doesn't slow you down. It fuels your fire with clarity and purpose. It's easy to be grateful when everything is working, but the real test is how you show up when it's not. Can you be grateful when the doors close, when the plans fall apart, when the effort goes unnoticed? Can you find something to give thanks for in the middle of chaos? That's the edge. That's the shift that takes you from reactive to intentional, from victim to victor. Gratitude rewires your brain. It changes your physiology. It pulls you out of fear and into strength. And the more you train yourself to find what's good, the more good you create. Some people wait for something big to feel grateful. But the most powerful gratitude is found in the small things. The morning sunlight, the challenge that made you tougher, the person who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. It's a way of living, not just a moment of reflection. And when you live this way, you become magnetic. You become a leader who lifts others without saying a word, because people can feel it. They can feel your energy, your groundedness, your presence. You don't practice gratitude because life is perfect. You practice it because life is a gift, even in the hard times, especially in the hard times. Gratitude gives you the strength to keep going, the humility to stay grounded, and the perspective to see beyond the temporary. It keeps your heart open, your mind sharp, and your spirit alive. It's not just a practice, it's a strategy, a way to navigate the world with power, with peace, and with purpose. Gratitude makes you bulletproof because no matter what life throws at you, you find a way to rise above it, anchored by the truth that you already have more than enough inside you to overcome anything. There comes a moment in every person's life where they stand at the edge, between who they've been and who they're meant to become. That edge is uncomfortable, it's uncertain, it's filled with fear, resistance, and 1,000 reasons to turn back. But it's also where everything begins. Stepping into your full potential doesn't happen by accident. It's not something that gently unfolds with time. It's a decision, a bold, powerful decision to stop living life at half capacity, to stop waiting for permission, to stop playing small just to make others feel comfortable. You were not made to blend in. You were made to break through. Most people stay stuck because they keep waiting to feel ready. They wait for confidence before they act, but confidence doesn't come first. Courage does. Courage is the gateway. It's what moves you through fear, through doubt, through every voice in your head that says you're not enough. When you act with courage, you send a message to your subconscious. I lead now. I'm in control. And with every courageous step you take, your identity shifts. You start to see yourself as someone who rises, who pushes limits, who doesn't back down just because the path gets hard. You don't need to have all the answers to move forward. You just need to stop standing still. The most dangerous place to be isn't failing. It's staying stuck in comfort, because comfort breeds complacency. And nothing extraordinary is born from comfort. Growth demands that you stretch, that you challenge every belief you've clung to that says this is just how I am. No, that's just who you've been. Who you are becoming is still being written. And you hold the pen. Every action you take writes that story. Every moment you push past what's familiar and lean into what's possible, you claim more of your potential. You already have everything you need inside you to begin. You don't need to be chosen. You don't need to be approved. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to step up and own your power. That power grows with use. It sharpens with action. It strengthens every time you decide that you are no longer willing to settle for a life that is anything less than extraordinary. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about finally becoming who you were meant to be. It's about removing the noise, silencing the doubt, and showing up with such relentless belief in your mission that nothing can shake it. There will always be fear. There will always be risk. But what's on the other side is worth it. Because on the other side is your freedom, your full expression, your real voice, and when you choose to step into your full potential, You don't just transform your life, you give others permission to do the same. You become a walking example of what's possible when a human being decides that the old story is over, and the next chapter is one of power, purpose, and unlimited possibility. You've felt it, that fire inside, that voice that whispers there's more. More strength, more purpose, more life waiting on the other side of your comfort zone. This isn't just motivation, this is a call to rise, to break patterns, to stop running old scripts that no longer serve who you're becoming. You're not here to survive, you're here to lead, to grow, to unleash the power within and rewrite your story in bold, unapologetic ink. Everything you need is already inside you, the courage, the clarity. The drive, it's been buried under doubt, distraction, and delay. But it's still there, and now is the time to claim it, not tomorrow, not when the conditions are perfect, now. The world doesn't change when someone gets lucky. It changes when someone decides, and if you're ready, truly ready, to live with purpose, intensity, and absolute ownership, then this is your moment. No more excuses, no more waiting, no more shrinking. It's time to step fully into the life you were meant to live. A life built by choice, by vision, by relentless action. The power has always been yours. Unleash it.